Hey, Hawkeye fans, Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register. Having to use my phone here for the postgame pod. Hawkeyes beat Nebraska 40-16. We're going to get you like a 10, 12-minute pod here because I got to get out on the roads and hopefully beat the weather back home. Tyler Tachman joining me. Tyler, I haven't gotten to talk to you too much, but wow. First time this game has been decided by more than 7 points since 2017. Similar type of score. That was 56-14 back then. This was 40-16, and it didn't feel this one-sided at halftime.
No, well, the first quarter or so was pretty tight. I didn't look going into this game. It wasn't one that we thought was going to be a blowout, and it didn't look that way in the first quarter. To me, kind of what decided this game was, you have the blunder on the kickoff, right? With whether that be just Caden Weegan said that there's sort of a miscommunication with it being loud there, and the wind didn't help, but that was a pretty big blunder on the kickoff when Nebraska recovers it. And but from there, Iowa's defense holds them to a field goal, and then they outscore the Huskers 30-3 the rest of the game. So to me, it was like that point could have been like a negative turning point and a turn things for the worse for Iowa. Instead, they respond to it really, really well, which I think speaks to kind of the team's the way that we've seen this team be resilient in some tough situations this season. But instead of it turning it to being a negative turning point, Iowa responds to it really well. And then basically from that point on, just it was a bloodbath, basically.
Right. Yeah. So after Iowa gets the field goal on the 3-and-out drive, its next 7 drives are touchdown, 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 punt, punt, touchdown, touchdown, and then game-ending drive. Basically, they sucked out the whole rest of the fourth quarter. They end up shutting out Nebraska in the second half. When was the last time Nebraska scored? Let's see.
It was in the second quarter on a field goal.
Yeah, so they scored with 2:50. This was a key point in the game, in my opinion. They scored with 2:53 left in the first half, cut it to 17-16. And I texted the text group, so you guys know this. It was like, if you can basically bleed the rest of the half and score here, you get the ball to start the second half. Imagine that starting on defense. It kind of worked out for the Hawkeyes here, and they did just that. I feel like that drive, half-ending drive, to me swung the game because it had been, either tip Nebraska or even at best in the first half to that point, even though it was 17-16. Isn't that what you felt? Because Nebraska kind of was dominating the run game at that point.
And well, credit to Iowa's offense. This was just a real stellar performance. They put up 38 points minus you get 2 points from the safety, which was a bizarre play as well. It was a weird day for the special team. Really
Yeah.
weird day for better and for worse.
Yeah, I should point out that one of those punts did become a safety. So even on the punts, they were scoring. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, no, but the offense, this was, Mark Gronowski did it with his legs and his arm. He looked comfortable passing, and DJ Vanami continued his emergence.
Yeah.
He's been a real revelation in the passing game. And when you look at the future of that tight end room, he's a reason to be excited. So is Thomas Meyer. You have Luke Brewer coming in the upcoming recruiting class, but he provided.
Got a Luke Brewer mention in the 4th minute of the Nebraska
you weren't expecting that. No. You weren't expecting that. No, but he's been good in the passing game recently for Iowa, and but the offense too. Kamari Moulton, he does not get to the 100-yard mark, just barely again. But it was just the offense. We've seen this in like spurts this season, when the way that they finished the game against Michigan State. But it felt like Iowa, they built momentum and then they kept it. They were able to string drives together where they looked, more than competent. So this was a good way in the regular season for Iowa and Mark Gronowski to go out on offense.
Exactly. And then again, this is going to be a quick pod, but flipping to defense, adversity there as well. Number one, Emmett Johnson ends up with a career high in rushing, 217 yards, including a 70-yarder on the second series. And then and then you lose Cohen Entringer, and I think it was on that play. So you didn't have TJ Hall, no Cohen Entringer, Aaron Graves, totally separate story. dealing with a family situation where his son was born yesterday, and he flew in last night thanks to a donor plane that got here with Tyler Barnes around 10:30 p.m. He said he slept well. So, as a new father, sleeping well on the first night, that's pretty good, Aaron Graves. He's on his way back to Iowa City now. But anyway, the defense did kind of overcome that adversity with some big red zone stops. And I recall Jalen Watson making a big end zone, at least pass coverage. I don't know if it was counted as a breakup, but forcing some field goals there instead of touchdowns really kept Iowa in it. And then I thought those guys played really well in the second half. I mean, Rashad Godfrey ends up leading the team in tackles with 9. He had I think he was the one that forced the fumble right at the end zone. I mean, he really got to talk to him post game. I mean, he really stepped up. And I talked to him after the game too, like, "Hey, you're from Florida, right?" He's like, "Yeah, from Tampa." "Okay, well, I think you're going to Tampa for the bowl game." He was pretty excited about that.
Well, he also he was credited with that forced fumble, and Deshaun Lee was also in there, but the way that the defense played early on with Emmett Johnson, the tackling was horrific. Like, and I understand Emmett Johnson's a really good back, but he was making them look pretty bad. And but credit to the way that they responded in the second half. They only allowed 42 rushing yards in the second half and pitched a shutout. So basically they were able to kind of fix what they were really lacking in the first half. It reminded me of the first half reminded me of the Oregon game a little bit with how they ran wild, and also the Michigan State and UCLA games last season where the tackling was just pretty egregiously bad. The difference was here that Iowa was able to turn things for the better in the second half. And then, I mean, credit to Jalen Watson, Rashad Godfrey. Like, those are 2 younger guys and 2 guys who could very well have sizable roles next season, because there's TJ Hall is going to be graduating. Xavier Wampa is going to be graduating. So those, I think you see some glimpses of kind of promise for what the secondary could look like in the future. And on top of that, Jacob Wallace, a true freshman defensive back, he made some plays on special teams, and he was in there a little bit on defense. And we saw some Nathan McNeil as well. So that's right. What I think. As much as this was just like a drum beating of Nebraska, you also see, it's good to see kind of some younger guys get in there. It's not in ideal circumstances with some guys getting hurt on defense, but I think you get guys some meaningful experience that they can kind of carry over into next season.
Yeah, and Ferentz did say Entringer's injury was minor. Hall, same thing. Like, those guys will be back soon, he said. So he expects all those guys. I mean, I would be surprised if anybody opts out for the bowl game. I mean, I think they really want to finish strong here. This is going to be. I've already seen some tweets out there. This is the best 8-win team in the country. I know you don't hang a banner for any of that stuff. And Ferentz kind of joked, yeah, 8 wins doesn't make big headlines, but they're one of 4 programs to have done it now. Every year in a full season since 2015. The other ones are very recognizable programs. I believe it's Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check that, but after the pod. But yeah, it's it's an 8-4 season with 4 losses by 15 points, and I feel like it would have felt, this whole season would have felt a lot different if the outcome was different today. And you kind of got to credit that same mantra Iowa's had all year, playing all 60 minutes, because there's a lot of people that are pretty down on the team early in the game, and they just kept at it. And TJ Lateef, 9 for 24 for 69 yards against the secondary without Hall or Entringer.
Right, and you mentioned how the scoring margin in Iowa's losses, and all those losses came to ranked opponents, so it wasn't like they were losing to bad teams or anything. To me, what this game sort of validated a little bit is, like, Iowa, can they take that next step? Because they're right there, right? And that's kind of the whole part of the story of this season has been Iowa can beat your mediocre and below level teams. They've been able to compete with your ranked teams, but they haven't been able to break through. And I think the way that Iowa won this game, the manner in which they won on the road against a rival who has been, they're trending in the right direction as a program compared to what they had been a little while ago. But to me, it just kind of validated, like, this has been a good Iowa team, and they're knocking on the door to get through nationally. They still have to kind of show it against better competition.
All right, let's get to some three-word headlines before we hit the road here, literally. Cody Hills, right at the top, says evaluate Iowa now. Again, a reference to way back in 2014 when Sean Eichhorst fired Bo Pelini because they had to evaluate where Iowa was as a program. And now this is what's more impressive to you, that Iowa's won 10 of 11 overall against Nebraska, Tyler, or 7 straight in Memorial Stadium, the second longest streak all time by a Nebraska opponent, only behind Oklahoma way back in like the 40s and 50s.
I think just you said 10 of 11 is what they've won now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just the 10 of 11, because in these types of rivalry games that have been decided by so few points, like rivalry games are weird, where even if one team is good and one team is bad, weird things can happen. So I think the fact that Iowa has dominated it so much and they've done it in close games, but there was no Marshall Meter heroics needed this year. No Drew Stevens game winner. He gets it at Michigan State. So Iowa pulls away comfortably and doesn't need a heroic performance at the very end.
Mark Phillips says, throw them bones. A lot of people were ready to throw the bones here in Memorial Stadium, but the defense, the Black Shirts defense didn't really stand up to Iowa whatsoever. Brendan Schnoblin says, Outback Bowl again. It's called the ReliaQuest now, Brendan, but yeah, it's not official, but that's almost for sure going to happen, I would say. Don't book it yet, but we'll find out next Sunday. I like this one from Hawkeye AKD. Hawks rule supreme, ARHULE. Matt Rule's had a tough time against the Hawkeyes, hasn't he, Tyler?
Yeah, a couple of close losses and now this. And
he lost to Deacon Hill, Jackson Stratton, and then 40-16.
Yeah, that's not great. But another thing, the safety that Iowa had, it could have been targeting. I'm not sure. I mean, it was
definitely what the fans wanted. Yes.
Yeah, it was close. But I mean, credit to Carson Shire for making the play. But that felt like also a kind of a turning point, because if that had been overturned, then that would have taken away a huge kind of momentum swing in Iowa's favor. Nebraska would have gotten the ball again. But that was so Iowa's special teams basically gave Nebraska 3 points, and then they also got 2 points. So
yeah, and honestly, gained 3 points on the early Weegan return. Set up a 3-and-out field goal. A couple more. Greg Hagensick says Ferentz Memorial Stadium. They should rename it Ferentz Memorial Stadium, apparently. Oh man, there's a really good one up here. Kevin Kopnick, Mark's a Hawkeye. That's what my main theme was in my post-game column, was what a difference it makes to have a quarterback that can move the team. I mean, Mark Gronowski ends up 9 for 16 for 166 yards against the nation's number 2 pass defense. Only threw 16 times, averaged more than 10 yards per attempt. Really replicated the Penn State formula from last week. And then Gronowski also rushed 13 times for 64 yards, 2 touchdowns, didn't take a sack. I mean, that's just positive plays. He gets you first downs. What did I end up with first downs? 7 for 12 on third down today, Tyler. So, really just, I mean, that's what a good running quarterback does for you. And I think you got to have some mobility at quarterback moving forward.
It felt like at a certain point, like Iowa just kind of broke Nebraska. Like they broke their will, they broke their spirit. Like this was the type of game where it felt like, at least on my end, I predicted Nebraska to win, and this was the first prediction that I missed on this season. But I felt like Nebraska was competent enough, even without Dylan Raiola, to where they finally could have a chance to kind of swing what would be a close game. And the fact that Iowa, I mean, you think about how dominant they've been in some of these rivalry games this year, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and now Nebraska. I realize they lose the game against Iowa State, but in those 3 games, they just have absolutely clobbered their opponents. So Iowa's come through in some of those matchups where emotions come into play. Maybe no one more than Aaron Graves, who became a father the day before. But I think that the way that Iowa's controlled its emotions in these rivalry games by and large, they've done it better than their opponents, because you remember, like, Wisconsin got flagged for the penalty before the game even started because one of their players tried to go through the swarm. I just feel like Iowa, whatever they've done from a mental preparation perspective in these types of kind of high emotion rivalry games, they've done a really good job of keeping that in check and channeling them in the right direction.
Yeah, well, I'll be kind of writing about the season as a whole after I get home. Hopefully, hopefully I get home tonight. We're going to do that, and that'll be up for you guys tomorrow morning. But thanks, Tyler, for your hard work out in California with the basketball team. I know you're going to East Lansing on Tuesday, so it just continues here at Hawk Central. But we're trying to zip around the country for you guys, and just gonna have to cut this one short today. I hope you guys understand. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate you, man. I'm thankful for you on this Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir. Thankful for you too. Hope everyone at home has had a great Thanksgiving, able to spend some time with friends and family, and Chad get home safely.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.